My wife laughed and said, "You'll never leave me. Even if you do, I will make you life hell in court." I just smiled. That night, I emptied my accounts, booked a one-way ticket, and vanished. 48 hours later, she was crying at the airport security desk. I'm a 38-year-old guy. For the last 10 years, I've been married to Victoria. To everyone else, we were the perfect couple. We had a beautiful home, good jobs, the whole 9 yards. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. Victoria had a cruel streak, a special kind of casual cruelty that she reserved just for me. It was in the little digs about my job, the way she'd joke about my receding hairline in front of our friends, the constant reminders that she was the one who came from old money while I was just a guy from a working-class family who got lucky. The thing is, I'm a patient man. I'm a planner. I don't fly off the handle. For years, I told myself it was just her way. I tried to be better, to earn her respect, I guess. I paid for the majority of our lifestyle, a fact she conveniently forgot whenever she swiped her Amex on a new designer bag. My salary went into our main account, which she had full access to. Hers, from her part-time boutique job, went into her personal account. It was one of those things that seemed fair at the beginning of the marriage, but became a tool of control over time. The breaking point wasn't a huge, dramatic explosion. It was quiet. We were having dinner last Tuesday, one of those bland, silent meals that had become our norm. I brought up the idea of moving, maybe starting fresh somewhere quieter. I thought a change of scenery might help us. Victoria didn't even look up from her phone. She just laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. It was sharp and condescending. "Oh, sweetie," she said, her thumb still scrolling. "You'll never leave me." She finally looked at me, a smirk playing on her lips. "And even if you tried, I'd make your life hell in court. You know my father's lawyers. They'd strip you of everything. You'd be lucky to walk away with the clothes on your back. You need me." She said it with such confidence, such absolute certainty, and in that moment, something inside me just clicked. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as an asset, a possession. I just smiled back, a genuine, calm smile. "You might be right," I said. That night, while she slept soundly, convinced of her power, I executed a plan that had been forming in the back of my mind for nearly 2 years. I'm a meticulous person by nature. It's what makes me good at my job in logistics. I logged into my personal investment accounts, the ones I'd had since before we met, the ones my grandfather left me, which she always dismissed as your little hobby. I liquidated a significant portion. I then logged into our primary account and transferred only the money I had deposited from my last 3 paychecks, not a penny more, not a penny less. I had all the documentation, every pay stub, every deposit slip, saved in a secure cloud folder. Next, I packed a single duffel bag. A few changes of clothes, my laptop, a hard drive, and a shoebox full of sentimental items. My dad's old watch, photos of my late mother, things that held value only to me. The last thing I did was book a one-way ticket on a 6 a.m. flight to a country halfway across the world, a place I'd always wanted to see but she'd always scoffed at. Too rustic, she'd say. Nowhere to shop. I left my car keys on the counter, next to my wedding ring. I didn't leave a note. Her words from dinner were all the explanation that was needed. I walked out of that house, the one I'd poured my sweat and savings into, and didn't look back. I took a rideshare to the airport. I've been in this new country for just under 48 hours. The air smells different here, spicier. The constant weight on my chest is gone. I feel light. This morning I got a string of frantic emails. My phone is off, but my laptop isn't. The first few were from her, angry texts forwarded to my email. "Where are you? Why is the account empty? Call me now." Then came one from my now ex-boss. Apparently, Victoria had called my office, screaming that I had stolen from her and run off, demanding they give her my location. HR got involved. It was a mess. But the cherry on top was an email from an old college buddy, Kyle, who I'd given a heads up to. He works airport security, and I'd asked him to keep an eye out. The subject line was just, "Dude, you are in deep." He said Victoria had shown up at the international terminal, demanding they track my flight. She was hysterical, crying, telling the security desk that I was mentally unstable and had run off with all her money. She told them I had cleaned out their life savings and that she was worried for my safety. A classic play from her book, paint me as the villain, herself as the victim. Kyle said she was causing such a scene, they had to call the airport police to escort her away. He saw her crying, but they weren't the tears of a worried wife. They were the tears of a queen who had just been checkmated. He said she kept screaming, "He can't just leave. I won't let him." And reading that, sitting in a small cafe, sipping a coffee I can actually afford, I just smiled. She was right. I wouldn't just leave, I would vanish. And this is just the beginning. Update 1 idea for how I'm handling this. I don't even know anymore. I just know I sleep through the night for the first time in years. It's been a couple of months, and the initial chaos has settled into a slow, grinding war of attrition. The first few weeks were a storm of emails and voicemails forwarded by a friend. I don't block her. I save everything. It's all evidence. Victoria's tone has shifted. Her emails are something else. Email 1. This little stunt of yours is over. I've spoken to Daddy's lawyer, Walter. He said what you did is illegal. You abandoned the marital home. You stole marital assets. You have 24 hours to transfer everything back and book a flight home. We can talk about this like adults, but you have put me through hell, and there will be consequences. She actually used the word stunt. The bit about marital assets is cute. My inheritance is legally protected, and I only took my own documented income. I didn't touch a cent of her money or anything that was jointly purchased. My lawyer, Judith, a sharp woman I consulted online months before leaving, confirmed I was on solid ground. I didn't reply. Email 2 from her father a few weeks ago. You have made a grave error. You have embarrassed my daughter and this family. Return what you took, and we might be lenient. Defy us, and we will ensure you spend the rest of your life buried in legal fees. We know you're not a fighter, Nathan. Don't try to be one now. The condescension is practically dripping off the screen. They genuinely believe they can bully me into submission. The most entitled move, however, came last month. I got a call from my sister, Lauren. She sounded flustered. Apparently, Victoria had shown up at her house, unannounced. Lauren lives 3 states away, so this wasn't a casual drop-in. Victoria told Lauren I was having a breakdown, that I'd been influenced by some strange people online, and that I'd drained their accounts to run off and join a cult. A cult. The creativity is almost impressive. She then had the audacity to ask Lauren to co-sign a loan for her. Her reasoning? Since Nathan has taken all our liquid assets, I can't afford the mortgage payments. It's the least you can do as his sister. It's for his own good. My sister, bless her, saw right through it and told her she wouldn't get involved. Victoria's mask slipped and she hissed, "Fine. But when he comes crawling back, broke and pathetic, remember that you did nothing to help." She's not trying to get me back. She's trying to secure the lifestyle I paid for. Meanwhile, I've been busy. Judith officially filed for divorce on my behalf a month ago, citing irreconcilable differences. The petition was delivered to Victoria. Judith also sent a cease and desist letter to her father. The real kicker is the house. I bought it before we were married. The down payment was entirely from premarital savings. While she's on the deed now, a decision she pushed for hard, I have every document proving the source of the funds, and every mortgage payment for years came from my sole account. So, included in the filing was a motion to sell the marital home. She can't afford it without me. Her father is wealthy, but notoriously tight-fisted. He's not going to subsidize his 30-something daughter's lavish lifestyle indefinitely. I got an email a few hours ago. It's from her. Just one line. You will regret this for the rest of your life. I looked out the window of my small, rented apartment. I don't regret it. Not for a second. This is the first time in a decade I feel like I'm actually living. Update 2. It's been over a year since I left. A full year of grinding legal battles, emotional exhaustion, and, thankfully, quiet personal growth. The process is so much slower than you see in movies. It's a war of paperwork and patience. After the initial divorce filing, her father's legal pit bull, Walter, came at me hard. They buried Judith in motions and discovery requests, accusing me of everything from fraud to abuse. It was a classic shock and awe tactic, designed to drain my finances and my will to fight. It was stressful, not gonna lie. There were weeks I'd wake up to a dozen emails from Judith needing responses, and the legal bills were terrifying. For a moment I almost buckled, but Judith kept reminding me, This is what they do. It's a performance. We just need to stick to the facts. Victoria's personal tactics got dirtier and, frankly, more pathetic over time. The smear campaign 2.0. She went full scorched earth. I found out through an old colleague that she'd been telling people I had a severe gambling problem and had drained our accounts to pay off debts before fleeing. This story had more legs than the cult one. It hurt. It's a lonely feeling, knowing people you've known for years are choosing a dramatic lie over the quiet man they knew. The financial strangulation attempt. She tried to report my credit cards as stolen. That was a headache, but easily sorted. Her most insidious move, though, was calling my elderly father. She told him, with fake tears, that the stress of my abandonment had caused her immense health problems. She hinted, not so subtly, that she was experiencing symptoms frighteningly similar to what my mom went through before she passed away from cancer. Weaponizing my mother's death. That was the point of no return. It erased any lingering shred of doubt. It was the act of a true monster. The house saga. The fight over the house has been the central drama. The court approved the sale about 10 months ago, but Victoria has fought it every step of the way. She couldn't make the payments, so the house was deteriorating, but she refused to let it go. Her sabotage was more cunning than just leaving sprinklers on. Twice, when a serious buyer was on the hook, she would suddenly discover a major issue. Once it was a black mold scare in the basement. A paid-for inspector found nothing but mildew. Another time, she claimed there was a major fault in the foundation, forcing a costly engineering report that found nothing. Each time, the buyers walked, and the house sat on the market longer, its value dipping with every failed contract. Each incident was documented by the court-appointed agent, but the delays cost time and money. She was finally forced by court order to vacate the premises so it could be shown properly, and moved in with her parents. From what I hear, living under her father's roof as a 39-year-old divorcee has not been a pleasant experience for her. The constant legal pressure from her side was designed to make me give in and let her have the house just to make it stop. But they underestimated me. They saw a quiet man and mistook him for a weak one. I just kept my head down, worked with Judith, and let their own actions build the case against them. This wasn't about winning an argument anymore. It was about surgically removing a cancer from my life, and I had an ace in the hole I had been holding on to for a very long time. Final update, it's over. 18 months after I walked out of that house, the final decree is signed. The noise is gone. The last 6 months were about the final, brutal negotiations. The house finally sold, but for significantly less than its initial valuation, thanks to the market cooling and Victoria's well-documented sabotage. The delays, the fake mold scares, the endless legal wrangling had taken their toll. In the final division of assets, the judge was not amused by her behavior. My lawyer, Judith, presented a meticulous record of every delay, every stunt, every unnecessary cost Victoria had incurred. The starting point for the house equity was about a 60-40 split in my favor, acknowledging my premarital down payment, but also her share in the marital appreciation. However, the judge then ruled that she was personally liable for the legal fees and documented financial losses caused by her direct sabotage of the sale. When all was said and done, after her debts were paid from her share, the final distribution of cash felt a lot closer to 70-30. It wasn't a simple win. It was a victory earned through 1,000 cuts of paperwork. But that wasn't the real revenge. That was just business. The reckoning came from a different, much more personal place. Throughout our marriage, Victoria loved to boast about her eye for art. She had spent tens of thousands of my dollars on paintings from up-and-coming artists. She considered it her main contribution to our home's value. "These are investments, darling," she'd say. My legacy. About 2 years before I left, I had started to notice discrepancies in the finances. A general feeling of being taken for a ride. It wasn't one thing, but a lot of little things. On a hunch, I hired a private art appraiser, an expert in art fraud, to evaluate her collection under the guise of updating our insurance policy. I had to tell her it was a requirement for a new umbrella policy to get her to agree. The results gutted me. A significant number of the pieces she'd bought from her favorite gallery owner, a slick guy named Jeremy, were either forgeries or works from unknown artists whose prices he had artificially inflated with fake documents. He'd buy a piece for $500 and sell it to her for $10,000. She, in her arrogance, never sought a second opinion. She loved the story he spun of her being a savvy collector. Finding that out was devastating. It was proof that the contempt wasn't just personal, it was financial. It was the moment I knew the marriage was over. But I wasn't ready to act. I was still emotionally entangled, and, honestly, I was scared. Seeing that concrete proof of fraud is what spurred me to start planning. It took me nearly 2 years to build the emotional fortitude and the practical escape plan. It wasn't superhuman patience, it was the slow, painful process of accepting the truth and preparing for war. I held on to that appraiser's report, my ace. During the final, bitter settlement negotiations over the house's contents, Victoria and her father were playing hardball. They were fighting over every stick of furniture and, of course, her precious art collection, which she still valued at over $200,000. This was the moment. Judith didn't submit the report to the court initially. She submitted it directly to Walter, her father's lawyer, along with a draft of a civil fraud lawsuit against both Victoria for knowingly misrepresenting marital assets, and Jeremy. We also attached a letter detailing how this information would be turned over to the IRS and the state attorney general if they didn't drop their frivolous claims immediately. The threat of a public, criminal investigation involving his daughter was the one thing her father wasn't willing to risk. His reputation was everything. He couldn't bully the IRS. Within 48 hours, their entire tone changed. They dropped all claims to the furniture, my pension, and everything else they were contesting. They wanted the whole thing to just go away. Victoria was forced to accept the art was worthless, a massive blow to both her ego and her balance sheet. The fallout for them was quiet but complete. Victoria was humiliated. Her legacy was a pile of worthless canvas. The news of the fraud, which we never had to file, the threat was enough, must have leaked, because she was completely ostracized from the social circle she prized so highly. Her father was livid, not because she was cheated, but because she had embarrassed the family. I got an email from her last week. It was different. The rage was gone, replaced by a pathetic, hollow bitterness. You ruined my life. I hope you're happy. Am I happy? It's not the right word. I feel settled. I'm not gloating. I don't feel a rush of victory. I just feel the profound absence of anxiety. The space in my head that was reserved for her moods, and her next attack is just quiet. I didn't ruin her life. I just stopped participating in the fantasy she had built on my bank account and my silence. She's not the victim of my revenge. She's the architect of her own consequences. Over the past 18 months, I built a life here. I finished the language course. I can argue with shopkeepers and tell jokes now, which feels like a bigger victory than any court case. I used the money from the house sale to buy a small, existing house on a cliff overlooking the ocean. It's modest, but the view is worth more than any fraudulent painting. The future isn't a grand, exciting adventure. It's quiet mornings watching the waves. It's cooking dinner for my dad. Rocco flew out to visit me last month. It's the simple, unshakable knowledge that my life is finally completely my own. And that is more than enough.